Hi guys, I'm back. Um, Happy Sunday. Today I wanted to do my own version of a teapot cozy. I've seen a lot of projects online, the classic ones that look like an owl. I have my own twisted. It's a very simple project, quick, easy. You will need a 40-pin needle machine, DK or iron yarn of your choice, the usual needle, scissors, stitch markers, um, but you will also need to crochet a little bit on top of your normal closure. You will have to do a border around it, and that will entail a little bit of crochet involved. But again, I'm not a crocheter, so if I can do it, anybody can. It's a very simple step. So we're gonna make 2 tubes, 45 row each, and this is for a standard teapot. If you have anything hugely bigger or with funny shapes, then you might wanna think of either increasing the row or maybe using a bigger machine. You will need a waste yarn to start with, so let's get cracking with that. So waste yarn, you will start from the needle that is a different color from the rest. That is actually the last needle of the round. You will loop your yarn around it, start cranking. You skip the next one, so the yarn, the waste yarn will go at the back of it, and then on the front of the third one. Back and front, all the way around. Make sure not to skip anything, so take your time with it. And you need to always finish at the back of the last needle. So pick your needle, feed it through the yarn feeder, pull it a little bit, and put your yarn in the tensioner. Okay. Okay, so here, what's happening here that you see me fiddling a little bit is that this yarn, this strand, has went underneath the hook. So rather than being around the 2 teeth here, it slipped and went underneath. If that happens, you might lose a stitch, so just be careful. Hold it in place, cranking. As normal, do at least 5 rows of waste yarn. But being the cast on one, it's easier to handle because it's not the one that will unravel. Nonetheless, be generous. Oh, here we go. Okay, let's start with our working yarn. So what I'm using today is this CC Baby cake. It's a nice rainbowy color. Now, of course, it didn't have the pull from the center, so it just gave birth to this. So bear with me a wee second until I find the right end. Okay, so now that I have unraveled that bundle of joy, we can start. Pick your working yarn, put it on the right side of the blue pin. Hold it with your waste yarn. I like to use a wee peg, a wee clip, just to free up my hands. Go slowly for the couple of pins at the start. Make sure that everything is being picked up. Okay. 45 rows. Okay, so this is 45 rows done. Again, let's cut a decent tail. And let's grab the waste yarn. Once again, you finish your working yarn at the last needle before the blue one, and then you put your waste yarn just in between, so next to your working yarn. Now in this case, I had way too much waste yarn, so I cut my yarn and then I just crank it until it falls from the machine. And there you have it. So this is your first tube. We need to make another one. So once again, we cast on with waste yarn. Let's grab our working yarn, reset your counter. Again, a little bit of tail. There is not much sewing involved. There is not a lot that needs to be seamed together on the side. So a little bit of tail will do just fine. Doesn't need to be a big amount. Let me grab my trusty clip so I can get this wee tail out of the way. There you have it. Okay, so I can just leave you to it, crank 45, and we shall see each other back when it's time to cast off with waste yarn. See you in a bit. Okay, so this is me finishing my 45th round. And now it's time for cast off with waste yarn. Let's see if I have anything contrasting enough. Yeah, this should do it. I don't know about you, but whenever you buy a new knitting machine, you usually get these wee ball of yarn with them. I like to keep them for waste yarn. They are just perfect. So here you have it. And this is the second tube done. Okay, let me get this machine out of the way because we're finished with it. Now it's assembling time, where we will have to close the tubes and sew them together. So bear with me 2 seconds. Okay, here we are. So again, 2 tubes, 45 rows each, and waste yarn on and cast off. So let's grab one. tidy up all these tails. Now we need to close the end flat. So first of all, let's give it a pull, give it a tug. Just yep. Let's wrap the end. Let's grab our trusty stitch markers, crochet, hook, and needle. So first of all, let's find the first and last stitch. Let's see if I can show you better. Okay. So you can see there is the waste yarn going through underneath a loop. This one. So pick that one up with your stitch marker. And then the other side, pull a little bit on your working yarn just to understand which stitch is responding to the tug, and it's this one here. Now this is a tricky one because if you can see, there is one stitch above the other, and if you fall into the trap of following the row from this stitch here, you will end up picking up the wrong one. This. Forget about this. You need to pick the one above it. This one here. So pick that one up. And then once again, I like to count my stitches just to make sure I'm right at the half of my tube. So from the one that I picked up from the stitch with the stitch marker, this is a 20, it's a 40 needle machine, so I count 20. And here it is, this is 20. This is my 20th stitch. So I know I need to start with these two. So once again, to close flat, you insert your crochet hook underneath a stitch, you grab the stitch on the opposite side and you pull it through. You have your loop on the crochet hook, grab the stitch on the opposite side and pull it through. Then you grab the stitch closer to you and pull it through. And you keep going. One stitch from the bottom, one stitch from the upper side until you get to the end. Take your time. You don't want to drop stitches. I mean, it can be fixed, but No need to pull too hard, because if you pull too hard, then you will tighten up the stitches that you still need to pick, and it will make it more difficult. You're getting to the end. Okay, so this seems good to me. Let's remove the waste yarn. Now, when you have a tail as long as this and you try to unravel the waste yarn, it will get in the middle. So a trusty tip that I learned from Shelly from Knits and Knacks, Koala Knits and Knacks, is to grab your working yarn with your yarn needle, just feed it inside the edge that you just closed and pull it outside on the other side of the waste yarn. Leave a wee loop because you want to be able to thread it back out. So don't sew it completely shut. Leave a little loop. But this will allow you to have your working yarn out of the way. So this was the cast off edge. And you can see it because as soon as I pull the strand of yarn, it's unraveling. Okay, now that we have it all undone, get your working yarn back out because you will need it. And this is one edge done. Do the same for the other end and the other tube. I shall see you back once we have closed all 4 ends of our tubes. Okay, so now that we have our 2 tubes done, closed, nice and stretched, what you want to do is you will have tails on both of them. Flip the tube so you have one tail on the top, one tail on the bottom, and again, one tail on the top, one tail on the bottom. Let me show you what I made already so you get an understanding of what's going to happen now. Let's put this on the side for a second. This is the finished product. So what we are doing, these are the 2 tubes. We need to sew them together on both ends, leaving 2 gaps. The gaps will allow for the beak and the handle to come out. And this is the crochet edge that then we need to do all around in order to have a drawstring. This is why. So this is the teapot, this is the top part, this is the side. So what you want to do is you want to measure on your teapot where the beak starts and ends, and where do you have your handle, because obviously you might not have the same teapot that I have. I can pretty much eyeball mine because I've made quite a few, but considering that the beak will sit more or less in the middle, And here I have 1, 2, 3, 4, roughly 7 stitches on each side, where the handle is a little bit larger and it starts from closer to the end. So you will have this part here that is like 4 to 5 stitches, then a gap, and then here you will have roughly, I would say 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 to 8 stitches. So I have on this one 5 at the bottom and 7 at the top, and whatever is left, there is a gap for the handle. Okay, so again, you need to check what teapot you're using. Trying to get in frame. What teapot you're using, and but if you want to go with the standard one, the one that I have, it's the very classic one. Right, I glued my top because I use this for as a prop on my craft fairs to showcase the actual teapot cozy, but I have another one that's pretty much just the same. Okay, so let's get cracking. Decide which side you want. Maybe you have some funky stitch happening, so maybe you wanna move it around. Once you decide how you wanna do this, bear in mind that now that I will be stitching the sides, I will then put it inside out. So basically what is happening is these are the right side facing each other, and this is the inside out. Then I'm gonna do this side is my handle. So let's start with that. Let's do this. See, as I don't have many stitches to sew together at the end, I'll use this side as the bottom side just because I have a shorter tail. So, feed your yarn, and then you just stitch it together. Nothing fancy, just make sure that you pick the first stitches, like the closing edge, because you don't want to create too much bulk. And I count my stitches from here, so it's 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'll stop, give or take here. There is a lot of give on this project because I mean the yarn is stretchy, so unless you have a very odd shaped teapot, then you don't have to be absolutely precise. Let's close it off with a knot. Let's make another knot for safekeeping. And hide the yarn. your work around. We are still on the side of the handle. So again, make sure that you're grabbing the row that you created when you closed the end. And say we are good. Couple of knots to secure it. And hide the yarn. Okay. And this is one end done. Let's do the beak. The beak. Again, in this case, we are leaving more or less this kind of a gap centered. Now, if you're unsure or you don't feel comfortable in eyeballing it and winging it, you can just grab your stitch markers and pinpoint where you want to stop, or even better, grab your teapot and do exactly that. So you grab your teapot and you see more or less where the beak starts and ends, and just pinpoint it with stitch markers. Probably that's your best bet your first time round, and especially again if you have a teapot that it's not out of a common shape or a common size. Let's tie a knot. another one, and hide the yarn. Remember, this is the inside of your teapot cozy. Give it a wee stretch. You can grab your teapot back and just measure it. Looks good to me. Okay. And now we need to do our border. The border, you can do it in whatever color you want. Since this is already a variegated yarn and has already a bunch of colors, I will stick with the actual yarn from the ball and use that. But for example, this one, I use a completely different yarn as a contrast. So again, up to you. On this one, I just use the black. So what we need to do now is this. Grab your working yarn. Again, disclaimer, I do not crochet. I'm not a crocheter. I half the times don't know what really I'm doing. But these are basic stitches that can help you do these wee decorative borders. So might not be perfect, but should work. So you grab your working yarn. I like to start from one of the two ends, so it doesn't matter which, as long as it's on the inside. Loop it and pull it through the first stitch. So let's start again. And when I say pull it through the first stitch, this is the row of stitches that I am following. Now, I personally, obviously, it doesn't matter which way they go. So in this case, it's not a matter of having pointing them on the left or on the right. Absolutely doesn't matter. As long as you're picking the first one. So if you start bunching up and you go on the second one, then it will look funky. So make sure that you're picking the first one. Grab your working yarn. Loop it on your hook and pull it across. and then loop it around again and chain 1. Okay, now what I'm gonna do is I am gonna do 1 row of single crochet. So that's already a chain 1, and I will do a single crochet in every stitch just to create a foundation. Try not to skip any stitches. I mean, it is forgiving as a pattern, but if you take your time, it's better. So I go inside a stitch, pick the yarn, put it across. I have 2 loops of my hook, grab the yarn and put it through the 2 loops. And like that for every stitch all around. Make sure to grab both strands of yarn. And I shall see you back once we have done the round. So keep going. This is me the first half done. I just wanted to check back in case you were wondering what's going to happen once you get to the seam part. What I do is I grab the stitch until I have available stitches as close as possible to the seam. Then I just try to find some sort of stitch here, because this is a tricky one, but there is one hidden underneath. You grab that, pull it through, and then you just skip the bunch, if that makes sense. I have some yarn bunched up because this is where I sew them together, but I do have a stitch here. I hope you can see it. So grab that and then keep going. Now do your foundation on a like medium to loose tension. Just because it will then come in easier after that. To pick up the stitches for your second round. Make sure you don't split your yarn in the process, like I'm doing here. Okay. Again, pick your last stitch and then go where you started your round. And this is now you starting the second round. Okay, so we finished the foundation. Bear in mind, this is mainly for decoration. I chose to go very simple, but you can do whatever stitch and crochet you know that you like and you want to do. Be that a double crochet, a triple crochet, a half triple crochet, or whatever other crochet stitch you can think of, go for it. Get fancy with it if you want. Now, what we need to do is create loops. Loops in order to feed a drawstring around it. The way I do it is, again, I don't want to complicate my life in something that I'm not knowledgeable enough. So I do just a bunch of chains and attach them in a loop pattern. So let's start with, I would say, 5 chains. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So chain 5, skip your next stitch. So 1 is the one that you have your chain 5. Stitch number 2 you skip, you go on stitch number 3 and you slip stitch and you created your first loop. Chain 5, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Skip the next stitch, go the one after, and slip stitch. When I say slip stitch is, oh, you have your 5 chains here. You're going inside the stitch, grab your working yarn, pull it across, and pull it across again without picking it back up. And this is your second loop. So basically you're creating what, a scallop edge. So once again, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Skip 1, go to the next one. And this is what you get. All the way around. Okay, so I am almost done. So a couple of more loops. And I'm finishing exactly where I started. I got the yarn, loop it across one more time and pull it. That will create a wee knot to secure the yarn. Okay. Now, remember, this is the inside out. So I'm gonna grab the tail yarn of when we started the crochet section. I'm gonna just feed it to the back. Okay. Now grab the tail yarn of your working yarn that you just finished with and feed it through in order to get it next to the other tail. Now what you want to do is just a couple of knots. Don't pull too hard, but tight enough. Okay, and now you could cut the yarn because you don't need it that long and hide the tails. Okay, let's turn our work inside out. Outside in. And this is what you have. A nice wee scallop edge. What we need to do now is create the string, and is, well, at least the way I do it is just chains. So to start your project, you need to start with a loop. So wrap your yarn around your two fingers like this and like this, right? So your loose tail goes at the back of the loop. Grab your hook, feed it in between your fingers inside this hoop. Grab the loose yarn, put it outside. This is what you have. Now pull to create a knot, and then pull on the strand that is the working strand, and this will tighten the loop around your hook. And now you start your chains. I don't really count them. I just go until I have enough to go around and have enough tail to tie a knot with a bow. And the reason why I don't count them is because I keep losing count at some point. So I end up just giving up. And before you cut your yarn and you secure your end, make sure that it's the right length. So one way also I can eyeball it is it has to go around it. So you have your project here, you measure it. That is basically you can loop it around it once and then some. When you're happy enough with your length, cut the yarn, and on your last chain just pull the yarn through and that will knot it. So from end to end I have the round plus almost another half of it. So this is what I have here. And now what you want to do is feed it. You want the tails to be on the side of the handle. So the handle is this side here because I have a tinier seam on this side. So what you want to do is start feeding. In and out. Now I like to put a wee clip at the end because while you're pulling you don't want to put it off, if that makes sense. And just keep threading it. I shall see you at the end of the round. Okay, so that's me at the end of the round. What you want to do now is just even up the tails. Here we go. Final test. Let's press our teapot. Let's draw our string. Tie a knot and tie a bow. And there you have it. You can leave it like this or you can decorate it. Most of mine are just plain simple, but just because I personally like them like that. But for example, in this one, I added a wee flower done with a wee flower loom, one on each side. Or what we can do is experiment today. And what I want to try is to add an iron-on patch. So let me grab them for you. So here's what I have. Let me just show you. I don't have that much, but I mean, for now, it's more than enough. And I bought these mainly Amazon, eBay. This so I don't know who of you is a super fan of Supernatural. I am. So yeah, I have to. So I have these ones that I don't think they will suit the decor for a teapot cozy, but maybe you have somebody that is animal lover, likes paw prints. Do you have paw prints? or maybe we want to put flowers on. Or we can add a couple of bees. Or maybe you have somebody that is a cat lover. So you can personalize it. The flowers. Nice. Me being me, I'm also a sucker for Harry Potter. So I have a bunch of these left. I did a couple of other projects like scarves and stuff. So you can use those as well. And I made my own. So this is, you get this paper out of Amazon, and is how you call it, an iron-on printable paper that works with inkjet printers. You have it for dark backgrounds and light backgrounds. This is the light one. And yeah, you just print on whatever image you want, cut it out, and then sew it on. Now, I would not use this for a teapot cozy just because the paper in itself is very thin. Once you take it off, the backing is very thin. I will do a video just for this, but I don't know how I would respond to the warmth, to the heat coming from the teapot. So I wouldn't advise this for this project. But I also have these ones. That are nice still. Got them out of Amazon. And these are just different material. I'm not too sure what this is. But it's thicker compared to the paper that you can print on. So a little bit more of a whimsical feeling. Or maybe you like a grumpy cat. So shall we test this and see? Shall we go with a cat? Maybe a cat and a paw. I don't know. Maybe this. Maybe just that. Or maybe just a few flowers. Is a bee. Decisions. You also want something that will be easily bendable around the teapot. So you don't want something that will then pull your yarn on the other direction because it's not flexible enough. So maybe the pot is not a good idea. What about flowers? Maybe we can have flowers of the same color family. Something along those lines. What do you think? I think it's cute. I think we can go with this. I made my decision. We're gonna go with flowers, and my OCD it's calling for some sort of symmetry, so we are gonna try and stay within the color palette. These are the ones I'm gonna put on. This is the wee trusty travel iron that I got out of Amazon again. I used to have Cricut and the Cricut iron press thingy and all that jazz, and love it. Highly recommend it if you're gonna use it. Mine was just looking pretty on the desk, and it was not getting the use out of it to justify the price tag. So I sold it off to somebody that was actually making a better use out of it, and just got this. Cheap and cheerful, does the job. So let's log it in. Let's make sure to turn it on and leave it to warm up. It will not take long. What you will need also is parchment paper. Now, these are fairly thin, as you can see, so it will not take long. This is 100% acrylic yarn, so don't overdo it, because you don't want to ruin the yarn and you don't want to ruin the project. But I can sustain the iron to get these on. A bigger sheet. Apologies for the crankling and the noises. This is getting warmer. And yeah, if any of you have seen my first video about the Chanel bag, the Chanel logo, I use this paper for it. I just printed out the Chanel logo on this paper, fussy cut it around it, and iron it. What I would advise is, again, this is for light background, so obviously that was a white yarn that I stuck it on, but you can still see a little bit of the shadow of the paper. So if you want to go down this route and do it for yourself, make sure that you fussy cut as close as possible to your image to avoid seeing too much of the paper itself. But I have still yet to try this paper on a light background that is not a white one, if that makes sense, and see what happens. But we can do that together. I can think of something and then we can just play around with the iron on and just make a video out of it. But do let me know what you think about this idea with the comment below. Okay, so this wee mighty iron is ready. Let's get cracking with the first one. Just a few seconds at a time, guys. You don't need to, again, overdo it. The pattern itself is pretty thin, so consider that every time you want to use one of these patches, how big it is, how thick it is, because that will determine how much heat you need to apply. So this is not fully stuck, so we can give this another wee press at the edges with the point. Now, if you can see, the yarn gets pressed down again. If it feels funny, but then once you start stretching it again, it will go back to the way it was. So don't worry about that. This the edge is still up. On the back. Now, if you did have a Cricut or any other machine like that, you can use iron on vinyl and just cut it out of your Cricut and make whatever you would like with it. So, and there you have it. Get this back on the teapot. Now, how cute is this? I think it's just adorable. I hope you enjoyed this. I had fun making it, and I shall see you soon. Now, as usual, I'm just starting out with this, but if you do like this video, a thumbs up would be amazing. Even better if you want to even subscribe and be part of that community that I'm trying to build together. I would be chuffed. But in any case, if you have stopped by and you've made it this far, and watched the whole lot, I thank you so much because I really appreciate that. Bye.